The release of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series has seen one of the most prolific Jedi back in action after nearly 2 decades of being absent from live action. Early in the series, we learned that Obi-Wan buried both his lightsaber as well as Anakin's deep within the Dune Sea, abandoning them and leaving them to be lost in order to hide his identity as a former Jedi Knight. During the series, however, Obi-Wan ignites his iconic weapon once again as he faces down Darth Vader and his forces, leading into the events directly of A New Hope and his eventual demise at the hands of Lord Vader aboard the first Death Star. While the saber was presumed to be lost after Master Kenobi's death before the destruction of the first Death Star, is there an actual explanation for what happened to the blade after it was presumed to be gone or destroyed? What happened to Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber after he was presumably joined with the Force and defeated by Lord Vader? Well, students of the Force, we may have an answer of exactly what happened to Obi-Wan's lightsaber. As of now, this explanation comes from Legends continuity, however, we will be combining pieces of canon. We would also like to add that this fits into current canon rather nicely without breaking continuity until after the events of Return of the Jedi. This means that there aren't any major plot holes created by using this explanation as of now, and it's highly likely that this will be adopted for canon very soon. Therefore, despite this being the definitive explanation in Legends, we will be treating this as a very likely possibility for modern canon. In Legends, Darth Vader recovered the blade of Obi-Wan Kenobi after finally defeating his former master, and he kept it for himself as a rare prize. Darth Vader ensured its safety upon the destruction of the first Death Star, though he himself wouldn't use Obi-Wan's lightsaber. Darth Vader ultimately had it sent away to his fortress on Mustafar, where it would hang as one of his most prolific trophies. If the saber survived the destruction of the Death Star in canon, then it is most likely where it ended up, in Vader's Mustafarian chambers. Here, it stayed on display as one of his most prized possessions for several years, showcasing his ultimate departure from his past life, and representing the failures of Anakin Skywalker, as well as the triumphs of Darth Vader. This is important to Darth Vader, as Darth Vader actually built his fortress where he could overlook his ultimate defeat at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Darth Vader could actively look out his window and see where he was cut down by his former master. And now, with his former master's lightsaber within his own chambers, the circle was complete and the learner was now the master. From here, we will be covering the depiction of events from Legends material, and then based off of this, we can speculate as to where the saber might be in canon. In its ultimate fate in Star Wars canon, as now it is believed that Vader did in fact take it. This is significant as Vader rarely took trophies from Jedi, unlike the Inquisitors. Obi-Wan, of course though, was an exception. In Legends continuity, this is where the saber would reside throughout the remainder of the original trilogy, until Luke would eventually be able to reconstruct the new Jedi Order, and eventually train Jedi Padawans of his own. At one point, 2 of Luke's students by the names of Tione Solasar and Ikrit were sent to the Bast Castle in search of ancient relics, as well as artifacts that had foregone time, and they entered Vader's castle long after it had been seemingly abandoned. Here, they would come across a false Darksider by the name of Orlok, who had come across the legendary lightsaber of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and used the lightsaber to then threaten the 2 Jedi Padawans. After an ensuing battle, he eventually fell victim to the traps of the castle, which led him to narrowly escaping certain death. Though he was able to ultimately escape death, he left the lightsaber of Obi-Wan behind for Luke's students to collect and present to Luke directly for authentication. While it had been returned to the relatively safe hands of Luke Skywalker, and now the apprentice had the lightsaber of his master in Obi-Wan, that didn't mean that the lightsaber was immediately out of danger, as it would later be stolen by an individual by the name of Uldir Locket. Uldir Locket, who sought to become a Jedi despite not being Force sensitive at all. This led to him developing a fascination with the Jedi, and he wanted a lightsaber of his own despite lacking the ability to create a connection with a Kyber crystal. It is from here that Orlok and his own students of the dark side joined forces with Uldir Locket against Tione Solasar and Luke Skywalker's numerous other Jedi Padawans. Throughout the ensuing battle, the lightsaber of Obi-Wan Kenobi traded hands numerous times before eventually being recovered by Anakin Solo and eventually returned to the new Jedi Academy. where it would remain once and for all, and for the remainder of its known lifespan. While this is where the story of Legends ends in regards to Obi-Wan's lightsaber, ultimately ending up in the hands of Luke Skywalker in his new Jedi Academy, what can we conclude about the canonical explanation based on what we know in the original continuity of Star Wars? And what do we know happened to Obi-Wan's lightsaber in Star Wars canon? Based on this information, it's likely that Obi-Wan's lightsaber was kept by Vader, much like it was in the Legends explanation. And it's highly probable that it was likewise kept within Vader's Mustafarian castle. As of now, there is nothing to suggest that this part of the timeline is any different. And the events of Legends and canon don't conflict until long after the events of Return of the Jedi. One of the primary changes that most likely occurred is that in canon, it's possible that one of Luke's students came across Obi-Wan's lightsaber, but it's more likely that it was actually Luke himself that found the blade in Vader's castle. We know this because we know Luke Skywalker spent much of his time traversing the galaxy in search of Jedi teachings and artifacts, including numerous sites that were significant for the Jedi and even the Sith alike. We know that he was even able to come into possession of Yoda's lightsaber, and it likely came from the Jedi Temple directly, where it was last seen being lost by Darth Sidious. Therefore, it's highly likely that Mustafar was one of Luke Skywalker's destinations, as it was not only the site of Vader's legendary castle, but it was also the very same location where Vader and Kenobi dueled for the very first time. It is likely that Luke Skywalker found Obi-Wan's lightsaber because it was a trophy which was meant to be displayed, likely in plain sight to some degree. After this, it's likely that Luke Skywalker even saved the lightsaber from the destruction and turn of Ben Solo and Darth Sidious. And it's likely that Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber would eventually be passed down to Rey, but it's good that it eventually remained in the hands of its original apprentice in Luke, and that Obi-Wan, the Master, had now seemingly made penance. It's important to note though that in Legends, and likely in canon continuity, Darth Vader took Obi-Wan's lightsaber as one of his greatest prizes, and one of his greatest triumphs against the Jedi, with this being the story and the fate of Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber. But what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on the ultimate fate of Obi-Wan's lightsaber, and how Darth Vader proudly displayed it within his Mustafarian castle as a prize and a trophy, even though Lord Vader was not known for taking trophies? Of course, he made an exception for Kenobi. As always, my friends, stay tuned on the channel for more lore revolving around Star Wars and Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. May the Force be with you, and have a great day.